Welcome to the Driven Dads interview series of the DadPerfect podcast. In this series, we focus on interviewing and highlighting dads who are successful both at home and also professionally. And we like to discuss their successes, their challenges, and learn from their experiences and their advice. Today, we are talking with Brady Murray, who is the father of 7, soon to be 11, and I'll let him share that story with you, and founder and CEO of Rod's Heroes. So Brady, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here, David. Thanks for having me.
Before we jump in, could you tell us a little bit more about Rod's Heroes and what you're doing to help children with special needs, as well as a little bit about your family?
Yeah, absolutely. So Rod's Heroes is a nonprofit organization that my wife and I started back in 2012. And how it all happened was from the inspiration of my son, Nash, who I found out had Down syndrome after he was born. And so when Nash was born, he was born in 2007. After he was born, we found out he had Down syndrome. We just fully embraced all things Down syndrome. I'll be very honest that it was a very difficult thing for me when I found out about Nash having Down syndrome. And it was a very raw and tender time for truly multiple years. I mean, I went multiple years without, or with not being able to not become emotional when I talked about it. And so it was very tender and raw. And something Andrea and I felt strongly about is that it was meant to be, and we wanted to lean fully into the Down syndrome community. And so when Nash was about 4, almost 5 years old, we learned that it's common practice for when a child is born with special needs like Down syndrome in many developing countries, that at the time or when they find out, that the family typically abandons them and leaves them, whether that's on a street corner or at a hospital or at the police station or in an orphanage, but they abandon them. And Andrea and I felt really strongly that we should do something to help these children. And so that was the inception of Rod's Heroes, was to try and help orphaned children that have Down syndrome get a loving home. So that's how that started.
That's an amazing story, and it's an amazing thing you're doing. For those who are listening, I want to share a little bit about how Brady and I connected. It's through our kids. So I have 2 children with special needs with a condition called Fragile X. And my 2 boys with Fragile X match up with Brady's Nash, who has Down syndrome. My oldest and Nash, so my oldest Jacob and Nash are in the same grade, in the same class at school.
Yep.
And then we have our younger boys, Oliver and Cooper, who are similar in age, and they frequently play together, and they are fantastic. Yes, boys. And
they're always talking about Jacob and Oliver. Always. That's common practice in the Murray household.
You know, and it's heartbreaking to hear that story that you shared of children who are born with special needs in other countries are just abandoned, because you and I both know, and anybody who has a child with special needs knows, that they're special for a reason, right? Yep. And they make us even better, and our lives are hard. But I'd kind of argue, I think everybody's life is hard in their own way.
Totally.
Right? You know, that's just the challenge we have, and other people have different challenges. But the blessings that come from these children with special needs, it's hard to even describe.
Yep.
How it changes our lives and how it makes us, just to put it simply, it makes us better people.
That's right. Yeah, no question. Yeah, it's a unique kind of hard, and I would say, well, Nash is 15 now, and I would say he's about the easiest 15-year-old I think I'll ever have of all my children. And there's something to be said with a 15-year-old that has all the same hormones and girl crazy and everything else, but is completely innocent and purely, like, just a pure soul. And so there's something very special about this time of life with Nash.
Yeah, it is. It's fun. It's challenging. It's totally different. And as a father, it's very different raising a teenager who has special needs than what you would call kind of a regular teenager experience.
Yeah.
right?
That is very true.
So different, so different. And that's why, one of the reasons why I wanted to talk with you and share some of these experiences, because everybody's family situation is unique, right? Everybody has different situations. Their children are different. Parents come from different backgrounds. You're raised in different cultures and socioeconomic environments and things like that. So everybody deals with unique challenges. But I believe there are certain principles that we can implement in our families that are consistent throughout those differences, that can help us as fathers and as parents to deal with the challenges, but also thrive as parents as we get through those challenges. So I sent you over some questions. I always like to send questions over prior to the interview, just in case listeners are wondering, because these are some tough questions and they take some thinking about. I don't like to surprise anyone with questions about their family and their past.
I appreciate that.
So the first question is, are there specific things that you do as a dad to make sure that you're putting your family first with your busy schedule and all that you do professionally? What are some of the things that you do to put your family first?
It's a good question. And the thing that I try and do, and I would say this is something that I'm aspiring to do this. I don't do this as well all the time, but it is something that is at the forefront of my mind. So in my family, we have 7 kids, 3 of which are adopted, 2 of which have Down syndrome. Cooper from China, Nash, my biological son, and then 2 little girls we adopted through foster care, and then 4 biological children. And so all ages 17 to 4. And then here in the next few months, we're going to adopt 4 more from Colombia, ages 16 to 10. So we'll have 11, which is a lot.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. They don't make many vehicles for families like ours. But the thing that I try and do is practice good old rule number 6. And that's something I learned a number of years ago, and a lot of people don't know what rule number 6 is, and it's this. Rule number 6 states, don't take yourself so dang seriously. And I'm a naturally, I would say, a driven individual and a very focused individual. And my boys with Down syndrome and really all my kids have helped Dad to practice rule number 6. And as long as I can keep rule number 6 in the forefront of my mind, everything tends to work itself out. And so that's one thing I've always tried to practice, and it's something that works well when you do practice it.
That's I'm writing it down. Don't take life too seriously.
Yeah.
I think that's a great advice, because you can stress yourself out trying to be the perfect dad. It's interesting. So the name of the business is DadPerfect, and I always explain to people the reason I chose that name is it's not because we want you to be the perfect dad, because there's no such thing as a perfect dad, right? Like, you can't go out and take a test that says, oh yeah, you are now an expert dad, you're a perfect dad, right? There's no certification or anything like that. But I do believe that you can be the perfect dad for your family, right? You can be just the dad that your family needs, and learning to roll with what life gives you is a big part of that. I think that's great advice.
I have a close friend of mine that is an active duty Navy SEAL. He's been a Navy SEAL for 12 years, and he's a man's man. He's an incredible individual and one of the most principle-based individuals that I know. And he and I speak often, and something that Trey says that I just love, as things, escalate, or it seems like there's challenges or whatever it may be, he said, every time that I'm under a stressful situation, I ask myself, is anybody shot? Is anybody hurt? Is anybody dead? And if the answer to those 3 is no, then we can work through any other problem. Everything's good. We're going to be able to get through it. And coming from a Navy SEAL, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. But oftentimes the things that we think are mountains are actually just little molehills, and something that we're going to smile about here in a few days, weeks, or maybe years, but we will smile about it.
Yeah, and you can learn from them and grow from them, and they pass. Everything everything passes.
Yep.
Yeah. So I know you don't do this by yourself. You're married to a wonderful woman, and I know that you two work together hand in hand to raise these soon to be 11 children. Are there specific things that you and Andrea have set in place in your home that help you to thrive in this situation? Not many people are dealing with a home situation like you have, with adopted families, 11 kids, special needs. It's a pretty complex situation.
Yeah. Well, you've brought up my secret weapon. Individuals will ask me, "How in the world do you do this?" And we're involved in a lot of different things, and they say, "How do you have time to do this?" And I say, "It's my secret weapon." And you hit it spot on. It's Andrea. Andrea is my secret weapon that enables all of this to happen. She's the glue, and she's the person that makes this a reality for us. And so it's the things that I try and um, she and I work on, and stuff that I would say is working well for us, is we stay in our lanes, and she is really good at certain things, and I'm good at other things that, quite frankly, she's not good at, and vice versa. And we know our lanes, and we know our strengths, and we stay in our lanes. And so something that I've just loved and appreciated about Andrea is, so I've been a business owner for 21 years now, and started a business from scratch. And like, it's a big undertaking, and there's a lot of stress that goes along with that. And in 21 years, I've never once had Andrea give me any grief. And I mean this, never once has she given me any grief, negativity, or any type of pushback on me working and doing the things that I need to do to get the job done. And I really respect that about her. And equally so, she knows that if there is something that I need to be at, or if there is a day or an afternoon or a week that I need to be available, she lets me know, and I make sure that I am available in those times. And that's been just a really special thing for both of us, in that we stay in our lanes, and we 100% each other fully in the responsibilities that we have.
That's a really good, it's good advice. I think what's great about what you just shared is, I know a lot of parents who stay in their lanes, but they don't communicate very well. And when you stay in your lanes and you don't communicate, it creates silos, right? And it's difficult. It's like you're living two independent lives that occasionally cross, throughout the day or the week. And the fact that you stay in your lanes, but you communicate, and you make sure that you support each other with what you're doing, I think is great. Yeah, that's a great thing. Is there anything, as you work together as a couple to raise your children? So you mentioned how you stay in your lanes, and work and home and things like that. But as you raise your children, you're both involved in that in different ways. Are there certain things that you do specifically as a father, or maybe just together, to really empower your kids? To find those things in your children that they excel at, and to give them confidence and help them to be their best. Because I know I've talked with you in the past, and you've used the phrase, you lean into certain things, lean into the disability, or lean into
Yeah,
the situation. And can you talk a little bit about that and what you do?
absolutely. So one thing that comes to my mind is, and so every morning as a family, we'll meet, and we have family prayer. We'll do some type of a devotional, to where we have just, whether that's a spiritual thought, or different things that we're studying, we're going to review that. And then we do our family mission statement. We recite our family mission statement together as a family. And one of the lines in our family mission statement is, we can do hard things, or we do hard things together. And I love, love, love getting my kids out of their comfort zone. And I
Uh-huh.
love to get out of my comfort zone as well. And we have a lot of fun with that. And so one thing that came up last summer that I just felt so strongly about I remembered, so morning time is sacred time to me, and I like to get up as like very early, and I spend considerable amount of time in prayer and meditation and reading, and then I spend a considerable amount of time working out. And I've done this for years and years and years, and everybody knows like that's Dad's sacred time. And so until about 7 a.m., you don't talk to Dad. Anytime after 7 a.m., it's free game. And so I remember feeling in my heart that I needed to teach that concept of what I would refer to as win the morning, of winning the morning with my boys in particular. And I thought, God, like as crazy as that sounds, that was a sacrifice, because it meant that I was going to have to take away from my own sacred time and my win the morning time and kind of my self-care time. But I just felt in my heart like I should do it. And so I talked to my boys and I said, guys, I'd like to start getting you up earlier than what you normally get up at. And I would like to read with you, and I'd like to pray with you. And there's some other things that I want to do with you. And one of those is we're going to do something hard that morning. And they're like, let's do it. I want to do it. So I said, perfect. So the next morning I go in and turn the light on, and they're just, like, what is going on? And I told them, I said, all right, you guys got to get the blood flowing. And so do a lap. And we've got a lap in our house as you go down the stairs, through the kitchen, through the other stairs, back upstairs and back. And I said, I'm going to time you. Let's see if you can do it in under 30 seconds. And it's like, go. So they all ran and they did it. And it was kind of fun for them, and it woke them up. And then we read. And we have a mission statement for the boys that we recite. And we recited that. And then we prayed. And then I said, all right, get your shoes on. We're going to go do something hard. And every morning now since then, we get up and we do something hard. And it's always a physical exercise or something that's going to stretch them, or it's the workout of the day that I call it. And we've been doing that. And I just am super thankful that I followed that feeling that came in my mind to go and do that with my boys, because that has become a staple in our family. And sometimes I'll be traveling for work and I'll call home that night and the boys will get on, and the first thing they say is, Dad, we won the morning. I'm like, I'm proud of you boys. Good job. And then, so it's become a part of who they are. And I'm very thankful for that.
That is great. And I can attest that Nash is a hard worker and exerciser. Jacob and Nash go and exercise together once a week, and it's great for Jacob to see how hard Nash works.
Yeah.
Getting Jacob to work has always been a challenge. So Nash is he's a great example.
What's funny is Nash is probably my most competitive of all my kids as it relates to working out. And so he wants to go faster and do more than everybody else. He's going to push hard with that.
Yeah. Oh, good. Follow-up question on your win the morning. So you used to do that by yourself, and you now share it with your boys. Do you feel like you've lost anything in that morning?
No.
Or is it?
What's amazing about that is it's a principle, and I don't know how to explain it. It's just it's a principle of abundance. I have found that the quality of my meditation time and my study time, and in particular the quality of my workout time, has exponentially grown. And I would say wisdom has been shared with me as it relates in particular on the physical side, which is so unique. I love doing endurance events. So I've done, Ironman triathlons. That's what RODS stands for, is Racing for Orphans with Down Syndrome. And so we started it by doing Ironman events to raise awareness and marathons. And I love Navy SEAL stuff. But what's amazing is I've never had quite the growth, if you may, and an understanding on a physical front for what I'm experiencing since the last summer, since the time I've started to do workouts with my boys. And so it's like something additional insight has been shared with me as a result of that. And so the contrary, that 30 minutes that I pulled away from my personal sacred time and dedicated to my boys has, ironically enough, made my personal time so much more valuable and more efficient.
Yeah, I like to call it the miracle of relationships, that when we sacrifice for the benefit of others, for the good of others that we are in a close relationship with, there's a miracle that happens.
That's
That
right.
we don't lose what we sacrifice, but we gain, and that's generally the case with all sacrifices.
It
You really,
really is.
yeah, and that applies to the relationship with the wife, with your children, with friends, with whoever that's with.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So you shared a little bit about something you do in the mornings. Is there anything else that you do specifically to balance your work life? So you've been an entrepreneur for 21 years,
Mm-hmm.
which is amazing. Congratulations. That's
Thanks.
hard work. A lot of the people who will be listening to this are also entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And so is there anything specifically that you do to keep what I like to call harmony in your work life and home life? Because they don't, this is why I like harmony instead of the word balance, because they don't always balance. There are
Mm-hmm.
times when work requires much more time, or when family requires much more time. But I like to sing. I sing in a choir,
Mm-hmm.
and I like the harmony is to me more appropriate, because it's there are some times where one voice is louder and others back off, or others are louder, and it's the same with work and home. So are there
Yep.
any rules or things that you do specifically to keep your life in harmony with home?
Yeah. It's a great question. And then, by the way, I love that explanation of harmony, because you're right. There's really no such thing as balance. There's always a time and a season when one thing is going to be more demanding than the other. And so to have things be in harmony, that is a really powerful concept. Thanks for sharing that. I love this idea of win the morning. I think that there's power in being able to consecrate time. Is how I'd best describe it. Consecrating time to your own internal well-being, whether that's spiritual or intellectual. And then there's a tremendous, tremendous benefit, obviously, on the physical side, I think is a big thing. And then I would say well, I hesitate to even share some of this stuff, because I wouldn't say this is for everybody. And it's not, I would not suggest that this is a prescription that everybody should follow. But I'll use the analogy of a truck. And so I have this pickup truck, and it's the darndest thing to drive that, because I do not like driving that very often, because it's a rough ride and it's a diesel, and you hit bumps and it's just rough, and it's not designed to just be a cruiser on the freeway. But where that truck just does so well is when I put a heavy load on that thing, and like that engine gets to work and pull, and then the load, the shocks and so forth, like it's just made for a heavy load. And that thing is like drives so much smoother and so much better, and the truck just seems like so much happier when it has a load on it, and it's doing what it was divinely made to do, and that is, carry a heavy load. And I would say I've found over the years, that's how I find peace, and where my happy place is when I have a heavy load there. And so what I try and do is I look at every day as we're entrusted with 24 hours, and I just want to make the most out of every single minute that I possibly can. And in particular, doing the best that I can to make every single minute what it's supposed to be. And I'm have natural, if it was up to me, I would fish and hunt every day. Like that's what I naturally would want to do, is hiking mountains, fishing, and finding the best fishing places, or hunting, or whatever it may be. And so I'm not suggesting I should do that by any means, but it's using every minute of every day to do what I'm supposed to be doing. And sometimes that's a little bit harder to define what that is, but just being a great and wise steward of what we're supposed to be doing with the time that we're allotted. And I found that those seasons in my life when I do that, I'm the happiest and I see the most miracles. And I found conversely of those seasons in my life when I'm not, when I'm just taking it easy. And, I worked really hard. And so I worked really hard this week. So I'm just going to hang out and lay on the couch on Saturday. Like for whatever reason, I am not my best self in those situations. So I always try and keep that heavy load.
Yeah. I think what's great about that is that you've been able to identify what works for you, right? That if you want to call it that state of optimal operation for your life and what you need. Because it is true that different people have different needs and requirements. I know, there are people who need that time, that downtime, right? They can
100%.
work all day long, and then they need that last hour or half hour or whatever it is in the evening to just do nothing.
Yeah.
Right. And it depends a lot on personalities, and there's a lot of personality tests out there that, do things. But I think what's great is that you've learned what works for you, what your optimal, situation is, what being that heavy load truck. Maybe somebody else, I'd probably, if you're you're a 1-ton, F-350, I don't know if it's a Ford, right? But if it's an F-350 or something, 1-ton truck, I look and think, I'm probably more like a half-ton truck. Because I'm one of those people, like I said, that I love to work hard throughout the day. When it gets to the end of the day, I'm like, mentally, I'm spent.
Yeah.
And before I can sleep, I have to shut my brain off.
Yeah.
I have to shut my brain off and do something that is not, it can't be creative. It can't be, it's just like, I just have to shut it off. And sometimes it's watching a basketball game. Sometimes it's just sitting and talking, with my kids. It's something that I have to do, or I can't sleep.
Yeah.
I'll be up all night long.
It's not all what it's made out to be. Like, I just ask my wife, because we don't do beaches because beaches are really hard for me. In fact, just this last week, we had a business meeting. It was in a beautiful place in the world, and there's a beautiful beach, and Andrea likes beaches. So I'm like, we'll go to the beach, honey. Let's do it. And we went out there, and I'm like a good 45 minutes into it, and I'm like, I got to go back to the room, and I got stuff I got to go do. And, so it's definitely not all sunshine and rainbows for sure. But you know what? She respects that. And like I said in the beginning of this podcast, she's always known that and like allowed me to be in my lane and lean into it. And equally so, I know exactly what's important to her, and I 100% am committed to that with her. And so it's worked well for us that way.
Good. So over this 21 years as an entrepreneur and more as a dad, have there been any specific challenges or things that have really maybe helped you to discover these things that you've shared, or anything like that, or any challenges in general that you would like to share that could possibly help another dad who may be dealing with a similar situation?
Yeah. There's a lot of things I regret over the last 21 years, like from a business standpoint, and a lot of things that I wish I could do over again, and a lot of things that I'm thankful that I was able to experience despite the fact that it was very hard and very challenging, and that I even have regret now as a result of maybe how I handled certain situations, or just as a whole. Like, you can't go through life without having something. But I believe that all experiences are entrusted to us. And good experiences and bad experiences, they're entrusted to us. And if we will allow ourselves to learn from them and utilize them as a way to be of service to others in the future, that there's none that are going to go to waste. And so, yeah, there's been a lot of missteps and things that I'm like, man, I wish I would have done that differently. And I even look back at, in particular in my high school years, I wish so bad, I just teach this to my kids so much, I wish so bad I would have been more of a friend to all. Like, I just wish so dang bad that I would have asked the girl to the dance that didn't ever get asked to go to the dance. And I wish I would have just not been so focused on just my friends and, what are we going to do this weekend, or trying to look cool, or whatever it may be. And just truly like be a friend to that underdog and to those people that maybe needed a friend. Like, there's a lot of things I wish I could do differently, but I am so thankful that I have those feelings inside of me of saying, like, I can do better, because I'm using those experiences to make sure that this second half of my life, I'm not going to make that same mistake. So those are the things that come to mind.
I really like your general approach to life, Brady. I think this concept of being a steward, that you have been given your time, your life, your family, your wife, your children, all of that as a gift, and you have a responsibility to make the best of those that you can. Mm-hmm. Again, nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
But I love that approach to life. It can be stressful, I think, to some to approach life that way, but for a lot, it's a very humbling. I think it's a very humbling approach, and in general, I think you live life very gratefully.
Yeah,
gratefully for the moments and for every second, every minute, everything you have.
Yep, I have a wonderful mentor that has since passed, but he said, we are all temporary stewards of the resources we have been entrusted. And someday we will get to give an accounting as to what we did with those resources. And those resources could be time, talents, that could be financial resources. And I look forward to that accounting. For me, I look forward into the future as to what that day might be from an accounting standpoint while I'm still on this earth. And I love, as I shared, I love to fish. And so I envision myself as a 85-year-old grandpa, and I talk my entire family and extended family to go to Alaska with me. And so I love to take my kids to Alaska, and we go fishing up there. And our favorite place to go is on the Kenai River. And so I just envision when I'm 85 years old, sitting on just on the bank of the Kenai River and looking out over my kids and my grandkids and my great-grandkids and seeing them there fishing, and just reflecting back over what that last 85 years might be, and being able to ask myself, did you sing the song you were meant to sing? Did you put everything into it? And did you do everything that you possibly could? And that's what drives me. And that's why I try and work as hard as I possibly can right now. Is, like you say, I just want to be a good steward of the time that we're allotted and try and sing the song that I'm meant to sing, and we'll see what it's like at 85.
Yeah, that's a beautiful, beautiful image. It's a great, I'm a big proponent of doing things like that, where you project into the future and try to imagine what, the situation will be, but what you will feel. I think that's one of the key things, like not what you'll be doing as much as what you will feel in that moment.
Yeah.
And then create your life so you get there, right? Make your life what it needs to be, so when you get to that moment, whether it's fishing on the Kenai River or on on your deathbed, or at a graduation of a daughter, or a marriage of a child, pick the moment, but you plan for it. You plan for it emotionally, you plan for it in your family, and then you create that so when you get there, you have the feelings that you want to have.
Yep.
Because it doesn't just happen.
Yep.
Life has to be intentional. Yeah,
that's right. Especially
as a dad, you have to have a lot of intentionality in how you raise your children and how you treat your wife and how you create this family that you want to have. Yeah.
Yep.
So we're coming to the end here of this interview. You've shared a lot of great advice and experiences. If there's anything that you could share with a new dad, maybe somebody who's just starting out, a new entrepreneur who's got young kids, that could help them. It could be a repeat of something you've already said, but what kind of advice would you share?
I'd tell them that everything always works out in the end. And if it hasn't worked out yet, it's not the end yet. Keep grinding forward.
It's great advice. Great advice. Thank you, Brady. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day.
Yeah, I appreciate it, David. Thanks for having me on. Congrats on your platform, and excited about your show.
Thank you. Thank you. We are too. This has been the Dad Perfect podcast. Thank you for listening. If you want more, you can get it. More resources, more tips and strategies, more dads and moms sharing experiences, and much more. Simply go to dadperfect.com and sign up. That's dadperfect.com to sign up for more. Until next time, remember, you are the perfect dad for your family. You are Dad Perfect.